Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. By the title of today's video, you can tell that this is going to be my September/general TBR, and I'm actually going to do things a bit differently this month and switch it up. Normally what I do for my TBR is I will literally just go to my bookshelf here, take a step back, look at all of the books that are on here and look for the ones that I haven't read yet and choose 5 and then go on about my day. I do work a 9-to-5 job, so it is hard for me to read like 20 books a month, 30 books a month like some people can do. So I typically always just trim it down to 5, but some months I'm able to surpass 5, some months I don't, and that's just the nature of the game. But this month I decided to honestly just pull out all of the books that I'm really interested in reading in soon and choosing whichever one I'm in the mood for and out of the pile. So basically this is just going to be like a mood TBR, but like not really a mood TBR because it's still kind of planned out, if you get my vibe. Okay, so let's get started. One of the first books that I'm actually currently reading, but I plan on taking into September, is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. So look at that cover, it's so gorgeous, love this. But as you can tell, I am already reading it. Like I said, I'm about 16 pages in and so far so good. It is very quirky, very weird, which I knew going into it, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. So this is a translated read actually. This was originally written in Japanese and it was recently translated into English. And this is basically about a woman named Kiku who, how do I say this? Basically, Kiku is very different from her peers. She doesn't really understand social cues as well as maybe other people might. So she isn't really cognizant of why she shouldn't say certain things and why she shouldn't do certain things according to society standards. So that's always made her different from her peers. And for pretty much her entire adult life, she's been working at a convenience store and she's very content with working there. She enjoys providing customer service, and again, she really likes her job. She's also single and she doesn't really have that many friends, but again, her job is pretty much like her outlet and that's what she looks forward to. Her family, on the other hand, really wants more out of her and expects more out of her. So this story really talks about societal standards and conforming and not conforming. It also talks about what society, what expectations society places on women, especially single women, and all of that type of stuff. I also know that there's like a dark twist or turn that takes place in this story. Again, I'm not super far, so I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that this is pretty much like social commentary, and I'm really interested in reading a lot more women's fiction, like literary fiction and books that explore feminism and what it means to be a woman, especially in different countries. So this is one of the books that I actually did buy during the month of August in honor of Women in Translation Month, and I'm really excited to get further into this book and I can't wait to have everything come together and be able to provide my review. There's also a quote in here from another author who praised this book, and I just thought that this quote was really interesting and it stuck out to me. And it says, "A dark comic, deeply unsettling examination of contemporary life, of alienation, of capitalism, of identity, of conformity." We've all been to this convenience store, whether it's in Japan or somewhere else. And I just thought that was really interesting, and even though I'm not like super far into the book, like I said, I do already agree with that statement. We've all been to this convenience store, okay? We've all been, you know, conditioned to conform to society standards and expectations. So I already know I'm gonna love this book. The next book I have here is Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson, and I love the cover art to this. I just think it is absolutely beautiful. And Leah Johnson is actually the author of another book called You Should See Me in a Crown, which has been praised by many authors and other like booktubers and bookstagrammers, and I haven't read that book yet, but I do plan on picking it up one day soon and giving it a read. But this book is about 2 young girls named Tony and Olivia, and they meet up, I think, at a music festival, and this music festival takes place over the course of 3 days. So I think throughout the entire music festival there's romance involved. There's also, you know, the themes of friendship as well as just facing your problems and issues head on and overcoming them. So I think that's pretty much what this book is about. I think it is like a coming of age story, and I love coming of age books. So really excited to give this one a read, and I'm really interested in reading more books that of course are diverse like this, so really excited to give this a read. Next book that I have here actually takes place in September, which is why I know for a fact I am going to read this one because it's very fitting. But this is called The Lies That Bind by Emily Giffen, And I haven't seen too many people talk about this book before. That's such a beautiful cover. I haven't seen too many people talk about this book on BookTube or Bookstagram, but I found this in Target, obviously, when I was shopping for other books and came across this one, and the plot sounded interesting. So I'm just gonna read it from the back. I typically don't like to do that all the time, but there's just so much going on here that I feel like it's easier to do it. So it says here, it's 2 a.m. on a Saturday night in the spring of 2001, and Cecily Gardner sits alone in a dive bar in New York's East Village. Feeling lonesome and homesick for the Midwest, she wonders if she'll ever make it as a reporter in the big city, and whether she made a terrible mistake in breaking up with Matthew, her longtime boyfriend. As Cecily reaches for the phone to call him, she hears the guy next to her say, "Don't do it." Something tells her to listen to him, and over the next several hours, the two forge an unlikely connection. That should be it. They both decide the next morning, as Cecily reminds herself of the perils of a rebound relationship. Yet, she and Grant can't seem to say goodbye, and for the first time in her carefully constructed life, Cecily follows her heart instead of her head. Then Grant goes missing in the chaos of 9/11. Fearing the worst, Cecily spots his face on a poster and realizes she is not the only one searching for him. Her reporting instincts kick into action as she vows to discover the truth. But the questions pile up quickly. How well does she know Grant? Did he ever really love her? And is it possible to love a man who wasn't who he seemed to be? So it has suspense, it has romance, and I'm here for it all. And I never read anything by Emily Giffin before, but she is a New York Times bestselling author, so good, that's great. Can't wait to read this and be introduced to her work. I hope that this isn't super triggering, since it does talk about 9/11, and you know, hopefully it's written in good taste, but definitely can't wait to give this a read, and we'll let you guys know how it is. Probably should have did this in order or like by genre, but anyways, the next book that I have is called The Mermaid of Black, Conch, and this is by Monique Rafi. So I actually saw this book in one of GK Reed's reading vlogs. I'm obsessed with her and her channel. She has such good book taste, but she was reading this book and it seemed as though she had a bit of conflicting feelings about it. So, you know, I would definitely recommend checking out her video, but I still was interested in picking this up and reading it for myself. This book is about a mermaid named Acacia, and apparently she was cursed by jealous wives to live as a mermaid forever, essentially. And one day, she is captured by American tourists, and this guy named David rescues her, and they end up, I think, falling in love, and I think he tries to help her break this curse. And I know it sounds kind of like weird or like a very strange, like Little Mermaid type of story, but from what I could tell by GK Reed's video, it seems as though, yes, it focuses on the romance, but it also seems as though it focuses on how even as a mermaid, women are objectified and sexualized no matter what. And that's something that she kept talking about within this book, that she thought, you know, some of the themes in here were a little bit weird, like the romance was a little bit weird at times, but regardless, I still thought it sounded interesting. I think this is a like women's literary fiction book, so similar to Convenience Store Woman, and I want to read more of those again and like read more topics and books about feminism in other countries and how those intertwine into these like magical, like, you know, or fiction type of books. So yeah, regardless, really excited to read this, and this won the Costa Book of the Year in 2020, so that's great. I love that for Monique. So the next book I have here is one of my most anticipated reads of the rest of the year, and this is called The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp, right? Yes, Tess Sharp. And I just love this cover. I love the covers of like all the books that I've got recently, but this is just so cute. And it says on the back here, perfect daughters commit perfect crimes. And on the front it says 3 teens, 2 bank robbers, 1 way out. So this is about a girl named Nora who used to be in a con woman duo with her mother, and they decide to put their con woman ways behind them, and Nora is pretty much living a regular life as a regular girl. And one day her and her friends go to the bank, and it's stuck up by robbers. 2 bank robbers. And Nora decides in that moment that she is the only one that can get all of them out of this hostage situation, because it takes a con artist to know a con artist. So I just think that this is going to be a really good book, a very suspenseful, thrilling book, and I've heard nothing but great things about this so far. I haven't checked out the Goodreads ratings. I cannot talk. I have not checked out the Goodreads ratings, but I have seen people talk about this on Instagram and BookTube, and it seems like a lot of people really like this. So anything thrilling, I'm here for. The next book that I have is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy, and I'm so excited to read this one. So this is a Disney like Cinderella retelling story, and I typically don't like retelling stories that are in the Disney realm. I don't know why, I just don't. I know that there's another popular one out right now called Darling, and I've heard mixed reviews about it, but like it's about Peter Pan and all this stuff. But anyways, this is about a girl named Cindy who is a fashion-obsessed plus-size woman with a fashion degree, and she is currently in search of a job. So while she's like searching for a job and trying to figure out her next move, her stepmother, who is not evil, she's actually very nice, is a TV executive producer for this reality dating TV show. And I think something happens last minute where one of the contestants has to drop out. So Cindy's stepmother asks Cindy, can she come on the show and take her spot? So Cindy decides that this is a great idea because she can show off her fashion and her shoe collection in hopes of maybe impressing someone that's in the fashion world that's watching the show, and they can help her start her career. And she obviously doesn't mind, you know, dating cute guys as well. So that's pretty much what this book is about. I'm assuming she ends up falling in love along the way, but this just sounds like a cute read, and it's definitely giving The Bachelor vibes. I never watched The Bachelor, but I know the plot and the premise of the show. This is my first introduction into Julie Murphy's work. I know she wrote Thumplin', and she also wrote Puddin', I think it's called. And the covers of those are just so beautiful, but I never picked those up when I went to Barnes & Noble, and I should have, because now I'm interested in reading those as well. But yeah, definitely can't wait to read this one. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it, but like, so many books, so little time. The next book that I have here is The People We Keep by Allison Larkin. So this is actually a book of the month book, and this is the first book of the month book I've ever received, because I just recently signed up for the excuse me, I just recently signed up for the subscription, and this one caught my eye the most. So this is about a girl named April. Yes, right? April. Yes, this is about a girl named April who is very passionate about music, and she is a teenager, I'm pretty sure, and she's had a rough life from what I can tell by the synopsis. She's had a very rough life, and one day she decides to just pack up everything and hit the road, and she ends up in this small town, takes a job I think at like a coffee shop or something like that, and she ends up feeling like she finally belongs somewhere. So this story is a coming of age story, so there's music involved, there's also just finding yourself and feeling like you finally belong to a place, and like you have like a home and a family and all of that stuff. So I'm so excited to read this. I know a lot of people have said that this has made them tear up, it's made them cry, because it is so sad and so heavy. So another book where I'm gonna have to make sure I'm in the right headspace to read it, but I definitely want to get to this soon, because I'm not trying to have all my book of the months pile up, because I already have like 2 other ones that I should have been read, and then this one. So I'm trying to get myself together. The next book that I have is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, and can we just appreciate that cover? Like, look at that face card. Oh, look at that face card. Never declines, period. So I've never read any of Tiffany D. Jackson's novels. I have read some of her short stories in the Blackout book that she collaborated on with Angie Thomas, Nicola Yoon, etc., and I liked what I read. But I was interested in reading this one when I seen this going around on Bookstagram, and this is basically about a young girl named Enchanted who is an aspiring R&B singer, and basically she meets this guy named Corey who I'm assuming is in the industry, and he lives a very fast and luxurious lifestyle, and one day things take a turn and something really, really bad happens, and Enchanted has to figure out how she can get herself out of the situation and make her next move. So on the back here, Angie Thomas actually quoted this book and praised it and said that this is a powerful love story to Black girlhood and a haunting reminder of the ways in which their innocence is often stolen. So very interested in reading it even more after seeing that, because I could not agree with that sentiment more. And this is another book where I know I'm gonna have to be in the right headspace, but definitely going to prioritize this soon because I feel like I just need to read this story. I need to read it. And the last book that I have here for this TBR is Even If We Break by Marieke Nijkamp. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that at all, but this is a story about 5 friends who go to a cabin, and they typically go to this cabin every single year because they created a game that only they play, and they play it at this cabin. Well, this particular year, this is the last year that they decide to play this game because they're all going off to college and doing different things once the summer ends, and the game takes a sinister turn and murder and mayhem ensues. And I just thought that this sounded so interesting. The cover like got me right away, but this just sounds so interesting, and I love thriller and mystery books that have that element of friends stranded in like a isolated place. So I think that isolated setting trope, I love that. I like when friends, when the plot focuses on like a group of friends and like there's that whodunit aspect. I don't know why I eat that up, but I do. And on the back here it says 5 friends go to a cabin, 4 of them are hiding secrets, 3 years of history bind them, 2 are doomed from the start, 1 person wants to end this, no one is safe. Are you ready to play? This sounds so good. So I actually did read this a bit after I finished one of my books, after I finished my last book on my August TBR. So I'm currently on chapter 10 and on page 99, but I took a break from this to read something else, and I'm gonna go back to this soon because it was really, it was good so far. The one thing I will say is that this book heavily focuses on this game, and I understand why, because like that ties into it, but I just feel like if we could at least like get rid of maybe like 10% of the emphasis and the focus on the game and maybe shift that onto the actual characters and their thoughts more, I would appreciate that and I would like that. But maybe once I continue, it'll shift that way, because I'm still not even at like the most action parts yet, so we'll see. But nonetheless, I still think that this is pretty good so far. It has an interesting concept, and I can't wait to finish this and see how it all unfolds. I don't know how I forgot to say this, but I actually picked up a lot of classics recently. So I've been on thrift books, I went to thrift stores, and I also checked out a few local little libraries around me, and I've been on the hunt for just more classics. And I actually came across this copy of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and can we just appreciate that cover? Like, this is stunning. And it matches my nails, I love that. But I've never seen a copy like this before. But yes, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen. I'm trying to read more classics. Like I mentioned, I would like to read one new one a month. I don't know how well that's gonna go, but I do want to prioritize this for September so that way I can at least start checking off these classics on my list. Okay, y'all, so those are all of the books that I want to get to soon. Again, I'm not going to tie myself down to just like 5 specific books. I don't want to burn out that quickly. I just got back into reading for fun not too long ago, and that's what it should be. It should be fun, it should be enjoyable. So I'm still obviously going to have themed TBRs, like October will be approaching soon, so I am definitely gonna have a spooky season TBR, and then the holidays, you know, for December I definitely want like a holiday theme like TBR as much as possible. But I felt like for this month I'm just gonna go with the flow and pick up whatever book I want out of this pile and read it. I'm interested in reading all of these very soon, so it's a win either way. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you've read any of these books, let me know what's on your TBR, and I hope to see you in my next video.